dual tax rate for years. So I don't see a problem with that at all.
You don't have any concerns about putting the squeeze on current industry in terms of how much you would have to increase the tax base?
I don't believe so. I don't think it's a squeeze. I think a property tax is a minor expense of a business. You have employment, to pay employment, to pay for goods and services, to pay rent on a property. I think it's more analogous to the kind of expenses we have as a resident when it comes to paying property taxes. I think, and they have a cash flow. A lot of people in town, like seniors and disabled people, they don't have the cash flows that a commercial business has. And I will say many towns around use dual tax rates, and we really have to. I really have to take the side of the residents in this matter. I mean, I can't. You know, I'm unable to be on both sides on this issue, and that's where I stand.
What about in the case where a company like Teradyne, which is in both towns, chose to locate their properties in North Reading as opposed to Wilmington?
Well, I would say that's anecdotal. Okay, there's what real truth do we? How much do we really know that's the reason that happened? Okay, that's for one thing, and we even if we had a fully shifted dual tax rate, we would never get to the type of property taxes that Wilmington has. We would get to around $18 a thousand. I think they're up around 24 or even more in Wilmington right now. So we'd still be a good deal when it comes to comparing ourselves to Wilmington. And furthermore, I think we should have been following Wilmington right along. When they went to a dual tax rate in 1982, North Reading should have tagged along with them. Our commercial area is abuts theirs. I mean, the whole situation that we find ourselves in now would be totally different. We would have had one or two of these major projects done, I believe, in the 90s. But here we are into the year 2000, and we still have these issues before us. Wilmington is moving on. They have a nice new combined police and fire station, a new school. They override Proposition 2.5 to the effect of like $33 million. They use the dual tax rate very successfully. It doesn't harm their business whatsoever. Analog is building 4 new buildings right now. Their tax rate is way more than ours. So I don't believe it's a real issue as to location or siting of properties. I really don't. I'm sorry.
And I'm just going to ask one more follow-up question along that. I understand your position as someone who's a conservationist and not looking to increase the amount of property that we zone as business. But what about the current business district that we do have in North Reading? Do you have any comments in terms of how we might be able to generate more profit from that?
Well, as I mentioned in my profile, I'm in favor of a sewer district up there, but I just think the expense of it, you know, we have so many other expenses before us right now. How can we really justify the type of money that would go into that? It would just further delay these things that are really pressing. Again, it just speaks to the weakness of our budget and that this work hasn't been done. So we have the school to deal with and the police station. You know, maybe at some point we can if we could get our everything more and better in order, we could go to think about a sewer district for the Main Street and Concord Street. Sure.
To kind of lead off of that particular point you made, in your profile under Town Finances, you mentioned an idea or a plan that you had for a capital projects account that might address this particular issue. Can you explain exactly what your plan was with that concept?
Well, I think many towns have capital projects accounts. I believe Reading does, Wilmington, whereby they save money for major projects. They set aside so much money each year, and when a major project comes along they need to do, they do at least have some money saved for the project. And to me, this is very appealing. I mean, a lot of the reason some of these overrides get shot down is because of the cost of interest, the cost of borrowing. People say, you know, this dollar figure isn't the true dollar figure. You have to figure in all the interest. Well, if we were to save for the projects, we'd actually enjoy interest on the money as we saved it. And my feeling is that you know, if you have a plan for a police station, say you had a plan, you were going to build it in 10 years and you saved for 10 years, I mean, to me that's more acceptable than having no plan and no way to fund it. You better just say, well, we're going to do this in 10 years. You know, we get a piece of property and we put a sign on it, site of the future police station. And everyone drives around it. Everybody knows that that's where the police station is going to be and we're saving for it. I mean, to me, I think that would be a more appealing thing than this struggle we have with overrides. So I would like to see us save $500,000 a year, and save for the police station, or save for the sewer district or something. I think people would appreciate that.
Well, I think people would appreciate that, but I guess if you listen to the kind of debate and budget negotiation that happened over the last year to meet the budget that we have, for example, a retirement account that at this point has very little money left in it because it had to be used for that purpose. But to find the money to put into an account, a savings account essentially, is something that it's planning, and I agree with you that planning is a good thing, but you're speaking to the residents and saying we need to take some kind of pain at this point. How are you going to pitch that to the residents and say this is the good thing?
Well, I think you know, I don't know if it would ever actually happen, but I believe that we have to stop doing business in the way that we are doing business. We have to. It's somehow abusive what we have right now. It's people have these genuine needs, and they're not being met. They're not being met by the way we can conduct our business. We have to make a sea change. We have to really stop and, as a town, really perhaps consider that we might want to shift a certain amount of tax dollars in order to just pay attention to this issue. I think other towns do it, and I'm sure it's helpful. So that's it.
Question? Yes.
I have a question
Can you
in that
state your name and...
I'm sorry, Lauren McMullen, 4 Baldwin Lane. In the vein of talking about saving for capital projects and also instituting or trying to vote in overrides of Proposition 2.5, what's your feeling on a capital override, which in the situation of the school would be to put it on the tax base for 1 year rather than bond, and the residents of the town pay for that capital item in the 1 year tax revenue? What's your feeling on, it's called a capital override?
I'm afraid you've got me there. I haven't really heard of such a thing. But you're suggesting you put the whole price of the school on 1 year?
There are capabilities where you have, instead of an override to bond, you put it on the tax base for 1 year. And that capital item is then paid for in that 1 year period, as opposed to borrowing money and paying interest.
Well, it would seem to be an impossible thing to do, because the taxes have got in the town astronomically, wouldn't they?
Excuse me, I just used the school as an example. I mean, there are many times where, for instance, we bonded $500,000 to do road repairs this year. I don't believe that a lot of people are aware that instead of bonding that $500,000, we could have done a capital override and paid for that in our tax base in 1 year, rather than having to pay interest. Yeah. I just wonder what your thoughts are.
I would actually be against that.
Thank you.
I think it would be too disruptive to the flow of tax rate changes from year to year. I think that they would be going up and down in rather alarming fashion. I think the way things go now, they trend in certain directions. The dollars per thousand type of thing. So.
Well, they do trend, but I mean they are going up and down depending on the projects that we have, yeah, and how the debt is being tired.
Well, if it was a small amount, perhaps it'd be okay, but it'd be hard to imagine putting a $12 million school on in 1 year.
When it's been mentioned, it's smaller projects, keeping them off. This is an idea that's been put forward before, and I actually thought it kind of fit with your idea of a savings account to some degree, because it's basically forced savings for that 1 year. Do it, get it over with. But again, on smaller items.
Yeah, perhaps on smaller issues, I would agree with it. Yes.
Any questions?
Do we have any questions from the floor? Yes.
Yes, Shep Spear, Community Planning Commission. Mr. Maunder, thanks for being a candidate, first of all. Appreciate the number of candidates we have this year. I think it's great. But I would have to say, as a member of the Community Planning Commission and as a businessman, that I think your proposal on taxes kind of flies in the face of conventional wisdom, particularly in this community. I look at, I have two issues. One, I would like to hear a response from you, and it sounds like you're saying that by having a dual tax rate, we're going to increase the amount of revenue that's available to our community. So I'd like to hear your specifics about that. And secondly, it's always been the assumption in a town that is growing that you don't want a dual tax rate because it encourages your business community. Now, as a businessman, I look at our Main Street corridor. I've lived here over 25 years. And I've seen it grow and grow and grow. And it's done that because we've had a relatively low tax base. I look out at Concord Street, and it's a very attractive place. There's only one deficit that both of those places have in this community, and that's the lack of sewer. I have been a proponent for sewer in those locations and in certain neighborhoods that need them in our community for many years now. I think they would be money well invested and well spent, because it would increase the value of the properties on Main Street and Concord Street tremendously. And I think that should be a high priority, and so I just wanted to mention that to you. I don't think that your tax scheme is going to help the situation. Now, the other issue that you look at towns that surround us, most of those have sewer, and they have a lot more to offer. Now, sewer is something that a businessman will die for. They love sewer. They go in, they put in their plant, that's where their byproducts go. They don't worry about having an individual septic system, which is not something that a businessman wants to deal with.
But Shep, isn't it true that the Fordham Street area of Wilmington isn't sewered? Yeah, the area that actually connects to Concord in Wilmington is not a sewered district in that particular area.
In Wilmington? I'm not sure
in the
about
Fordham
that.
area. No, that is a septic system area right there.
Could
So,
be. But most of Wilmington, I'm talking about,
Yeah.
90% of Wilmington at least is sewered.
well,
And I think that's one of the things we need. Also, we have the J.T. Berry, and I know that the tenor of the J.T. Berry committee has been pretty much to develop that property as a key component of our industrial base, and it's an economic decision. We have proposals for schools and all types of educational facilities, and the reason that committee has not chosen those is because we need to support our tax base. So another position is that you stated you were not in favor of increasing our tax base, and I think that goes counters to the needs of our economic needs of our town. So if you could respond to some of those things, I'd appreciate it.
well, I think one thing we have to be careful of is when we talk about commercially developing our town, is will we spoil it for the reason that we like it? Will we have more traffic and change the nature of the town as we reduce the open space and everything? I think we have to be careful about this, just willy-nilly saying, oh, we need more commercial development. I think North Reading's a charming place, and we shouldn't be forgetting that. And as to your first point, a dual tax rate will tend to increase the size of the town budget, because people may be inclined to vote for a Proposition 2.5 override if it doesn't overly impact their pocketbooks. So there is an element of growing the town budget with a dual tax rate, and that's it.
I don't know. To Mr. Spear's question, maybe more specifically, do you have any estimates on exactly what the percentage decrease or the impact on the residential